Today we have a very special guest joining us. Paul is an agent with Sotheby's Luxury Real Estate and runs a team with the top 1% sales in all of North America. Throughout this episode, Paul shares his story and gives us insight into building relationships and leaving a lasting impression on the people that you encounter. Welcome, Paul, to the In the Making podcast. I really wanted to actually have you on when we started this thing, but I thought we had to get a few reps in on practice before we brought you out. So I'm glad we've gotten some practice, and I'm very excited for this episode. This is your first time meeting Pat, so Pat, Paul.
Nice to meet you. Yeah.
Great to meet you, and nice to be with you today.
Yeah.
I promise to be kind to you, Dan. I'll make it gentle.
Thank you. That's very good.
Thank you for your restraint. Yeah, we need that.
Yeah, there's no holds bar here. Whatever you want to say or do, just go for it.
Be careful. Yeah, be careful what you wish for, Dan.
So basically, I was really excited to have you on because I know that. Anytime I meet anyone that's doing anything that's kind of unique out of the already existing unique subset of people, it gets exciting because to be a realtor or business owner or whatever the case may be is one thing, but to be doing it at a level where you're achieving results that only 1 or 2% of people are actually getting. That's a whole other ball game you're playing. And I think that it would benefit the rest of the world to kind of see what you're doing differently and kind of what makes you tick. And even if anyone's not interested in real estate, I think it would just be a very interesting story considering your background. So I know you had some back. You did your MBA, and then you traveled a whole bunch, and you were working in banking. So do you want to just kind of start off by giving us your life story, if you will?
Your journey.
Oh, so it sounds a lot more exciting probably than it was. My goals always were education. My mother said as a kid that in life, you can have many things taken away from you in your life. One of which you can never have taken away is education. So for me, that was always a basis. I've got to, whatever I do, and I wasn't planning on being a real estate agent. So my goals were to finish university, do my BCom, do my MBA, and then see, like most people, I had absolutely no idea what I was going to do. But I thought business school was a good background for anything in life. And I would say that today is valid for anyone. It's to have some educational background is a great background for anything in life. So is travel. It's about what suits the person best. So for me, there was no decision of, I'm going to become a banker or I'm going to become a lawyer. I honestly had no bloody idea what I was going to do. So it was a fluke. When I was in France, I was, the second time I returned to France twice, I was put on I was on what they call a stage, which is essentially a training session. And I was put with a company, and one day before I was to fly to France, they canceled it and said, there's something that came up with that position. We're going to put you with the bank. And life turns out funny. So I was with the bank and learned a lot about French culture and how people work in French organizations. And I thought, I want to work at the bank. This is the best. So I worked at the bank for 6 years, and every day I was looking for the best. It never happened. So it was 6 years.
You were looking for what? You were looking
just
for
like the best career, the best experience, going to work every day with excited about going to work. And although banking was interesting, it was the clients that made it interesting. it's quite different working for a large organization than working for yourself. So I was planning at that time, in banking, you meet a lot of people. So I knew what I didn't want to do. A lot of my clients in my portfolio were in manufacturing. I thought, no, I don't want to do that. And I had a couple of clients who are in real estate, and that I thought, well, this is something I'll investigate. So I think in life, it's more about luck and who you meet and timing. And for most people, I meet, and you ask them, well, what did you do? How did you come into this? And most people say the same thing. It was either luck or happenstance, or I met this person. And I think that's very fortuitous, but it's how most things will unfold in their lives, unless they inherit a business from their family, or they've always were a chef at a super high level that's always been passionate in their blood. Then it's easy. But for me, we didn't have that. I don't recall any sort of figures where I would say growing up. And I grew up in a small town called Ancaster. I didn't have any figures that I said, you know what, he or she's an example of what I want to do. So I think for most people, it's like me, you don't know, and then you sort of fall into it.
Yeah, I think that that's like the biggest misconception that I hear whenever I have friends that are like, oh, I want to work in investment banking, or oh, I want to work in sports marketing. And then you hear those people that are in the positions that they want to be in talk about how they got there. And it's the least linear path you would ever imagine. Like the guy who's head of this sports marketing agency started working at a farm, and then, met this guy who rode horses, and then somehow ended up where he is.
100%. But I think a lot of people choose career paths for entirely the wrong reasons. So they choose them because their parents expect them to do this, or they're told to do this. Yep. And it's not congruent with who they are. So it's funny how life unfolds. I think the best thing for anyone to be successful is you have to be passionate about what you're doing. The funny thing about real estate is just the medium. I mean, I just happen to sell real estate. Anyone who's successful could be selling any product. And we all sell something. And school teachers are selling education. People say, oh, well, he or she's a school teacher. No, they're in sales. They're selling education to children. We're all we're selling something. So it's, what are you passionate about? And because it's inauthentic to sell something that you're not passionate about. So at the bank, I would get, like everyone at the bank has very aggressive sales targets. And I would say to much to the dismay of my manager who I reported to, he'd say, well, what are your sales targets on this mutual fund? I said, well, the funds are the lowest performing of any mutual fund. Why on earth would I sell that to my clients? I would never do that. And his commentary is, because you have to. If you have a sales target, I said, well, put me down for 0, and then triple or quadruple my sales target in other areas where the product I believe in. So if you don't believe in the product, you can't be passionate. You can't do it.
Yeah. Wow. 100%. I really like what you said about like the real estate is just a vehicle, because I frequently think that, and when we're talking about our work with friends and stuff like that, people always ask, like, really, like window cleaning? Like, I mean, it's not about the window cleaning. That's just like you said, that's just the vehicle that allows you to do all the things that you enjoy about it, dealing with people, and like you said, the sales and all that. Yeah, so I like that. It's a really good way to put it.
What's true, I think, Pat, for anyone who does it's about connecting to people. So many years ago when I was at the bank, I met a plastic surgeon who was crazy successful. And he was on my portfolio. And I said to him, how do you explain your success? I mean, he made an obscene amount of money. Yeah. And he said, skill is number 3. So number 1 is amicability. If people don't like you, they're not going to do business with you. He said, skill is not number 1. My God, if that's not the truth in real estate, I mean, there are a lot of realtors who are very successful and their skill level is much lower. But I think that goes with anything. And so he said, number 2 is availability. And I'll talk about that maybe a bit later, because I do believe that that's something that's key to what I've learned is availability, whether that means however the client wants it, whether that's texting, phone call, or emailing. And number 3 is ability. Most people flip it around and they think, well, I went to this Ivy League school and I've done this and my father is this and we own this. Well, that's rubbish. I mean, people, if they don't like you, they're not going to do business with you. And secondly, if you're unavailable and they can't find you, well, your bloody competitor is available and your competitor will be there in a minute. Mm-hmm. So the last thing is ability. I mean, sure, you're not going to get the referrals if the ability is not there, but that's the third in the sequence of the decision making for the client. And it goes with any product. I'm sure it's the same for accountants and engineers and whatever the product is. It's amicability. Have you connected with that client? And your client could be your manager. Your client, for people who don't have outside clients, if you're in an organization, your clients are your colleagues and your managers. I mean, what are your relationships that you're building within your organization? It doesn't have to be like me. I'm in a pure sales environment. For people who aren't in that, it's about building those relationships. And I know that sounds trite, but it's true. If you can't build those relationships, you're transactional in nature. So everything becomes a transaction. You're constantly looking for the next piece of business. I mean, I couldn't imagine a more hellish way to spend the day. And then doing that, I think if you rely on relationships and you perform and you put things in writing and you do what you're saying to do, your clients are going to do all the legwork for you and refer you after time. It takes time. It takes, in my experience, 3 years to build a business, any business. And if you can't be flying in 3 years, I think you should step out of the business and look for another business. But 3 years is a time where you're like, now I can rely on those referrals. Now I've built a reputation. Now I have a name. So in this industry, and that's when it should be. I'm not going to say easy. It's never easy, but easier is 3 years. Mm-hmm. The grunt work is the first 3 years.
I really like that you said that, because I think that's something that's lost on a lot of, especially like our generation, younger people, where, I mean, it's happened to me. Like you get an idea for something, you want to jump into starting a new project or business, and you go a month, maybe 2, and you kind of lose sight and you're like, all right, it's not working. I'm not rich yet. I think I'm going to go do something else. And kind of give
on
up
to the
on
next
it.
thing. Yeah.
It's a problem for anyone not in a big organization, because if you're self-employed like the 3 of us are, you don't have someone you can go to. You don't have that sounding board. In a corporation, you've got managers, you've got colleagues, and you've got to pay at the end of 2 weeks. When you're self-employed, there are these constant questions of like, am I good enough? Am I going to get that piece of business? Are they going to do business with my competitor? I mean, you're asking these questions all the time. So those self-doubt questions are totally normal. I think after 3 years, your self-esteem builds. So you're not terrified by that. But maybe it's a function that the first 3 years you're just running on sheer bloody terror. It's just, can I build this business? Can I do this? And once you're over three years, I truly believe 3 years, and I've seen it in myself multiple times. Maybe because I left my first job at the bank at 3 years after I built everything. Maybe I like a challenge. I don't know. The second one I left after 3 years. So anyway, I think 3 years is the pivotal point where the fear level drops and you're like, you know what? I can do this.
I think the hardest part is literally just making it through those first 3 years, because you're going in the beginning, you're not getting anything. And you have, when you're running and you've got that flywheel going and you're doing things and making things happen, it's easy to constantly be validated. No, okay, if I put in this many hours into sales or whatever, I'm going to get a direct return on my effort. But when you're starting, you're just working tirelessly to get something going, and you're not getting anywhere because you just started. Nobody knows who you are. And
it's
the
true.
only thing that's keeping you going is that sheer fortitude of saying, I believe in myself and it will work eventually, but it's not working yet. But
Yeah,
I got to keep going.
Fortitude's a better word than mine. I mean, I'm probably stubborn, and it was fear-based. So the thing is that a lot of people if things aren't happening, I think the mistake that most people do is they hibernate. They're like, you know what? I'm having a bad day. I'm having a bad week. I'm just going to chill out and watch Netflix. That's the worst thing to do. I think what I would do is I would say when you're building your business is, well, which 10 people am I going to connect to today? I believe that success is built from a series of unsuccessful moments. So if you latch onto those unsuccessful moments, you're latching onto negativity. You can't move forward, because if you believe that one unsuccessful event will lead to another, it's going to be unsuccessful. So those events are not, there's a scientific term, and I'm not a scientist, it's called mutually exclusive. What that means is, if mutually exclusive events are, event 1 happens, event 2 happens, event 3, they have nothing to do with one another. And we as human beings tie them together. So instead of having 3 mutually exclusive events, we're like, all 3 were unsuccessful. So what I'm doing is unsuccessful. It's rubbish. Those are 3 mutually exclusive events. Get on to event number 4. And it will be successful. I think the key is connecting with people, getting out there, calling, emailing, letters. Who writes letters anymore? No one. Who writes handwritten cards? No one. Who calls anymore? No one. Do what people aren't doing. Everyone's texting, everyone's emailing. Not that that's bad, but if you're building a relationship, do what the client wants, especially if you're dealing with older, more affluent clients. The strange thing is that there are a lot of lonely people out there. And we're in a big city. Loneliness is everywhere. And people are essentially buying your time. They're buying, in my case, I have very high margins. So in the real estate business, the value of my transaction is extremely high. So the cost of losing that transaction is very different than if I sold insurance. I mean, the transactional value on car insurance is $80 for the year or something. It's very light. Or if I'm in dry cleaning, well, those transactional values are very tight. Those margins are tight. In mine, it's high. So I've got to focus on fewer people and more time with them. And the irony is, as I have less time to work with people, I can never let them know that, because the moment they know that I don't have time, I'm gone, because they want time. What they're buying is time. They want you to know about them and whatever the product is. And then at the end of the day, you're selling whatever product it is that fits their needs. I'm not saying you can sell them anything. It has to fit their needs. But
I think you're making them feel important, right?
Right.
They want to know that you're prioritizing them. And on that note, I had a really great conversation with my friend Amr the other day, where he does consulting and coaching for trade businesses. And recently their prices just went up, and now I don't know, I think he's charging like $3,000 US for his course or something. And someone asked him, they were like, this is a lot of money. Why is it so expensive? And he said, well, I've got 2 choices. I can either choose to apologize once for being expensive, and then I can give you everything that I'm promising you, or I can not charge enough, and then I can apologize every day for why I'm not living up to the standards because I didn't charge you enough. So that's kind of what we did going into this, where we said, half of Toronto, maybe 70% of them, they're not going to want to hire us because we're more expensive. But I hate the feeling of someone saying they weren't happy with something, or they want me to go the extra mile for them, and me not wanting to because I feel like I wasn't getting paid enough to make that effort. So we just said, why don't we just do the opposite and we'll be more expensive, but that way we can always say yes to people and just because it's worth it. So yeah, I think picking your industry for that was a very good idea.
Well, if it's the right fit, I mean, it's about being authentic and authentic to what you're doing. My first broker said to me, if you look at people and you think immediately you're thinking the revenue, or in my industry it's commission. So if you're thinking the revenue, people see beyond that. And everyone will see beyond that. But if you put the customer first, and I have a philosophy is I give them reasons not to buy. Well, most agents are telling them why they need to buy this house. Most people are educated. They know. They want to know why not to buy something. And so I think in my industry, in every industry, if you have the clients back and you tell them this is why this product's not good for you, but this is why this is. Or maybe what you do is we say, you know what, we've said a number of times, this is not the right time for you. Maybe we should have this discussion in 3 years. I mean, that blows most people's minds because they expect you to say, no, let's get your house on the market now, or let's buy a house now. But the referrals come from that leaps and bounds if you can put the client first. And the money will always come. If you're hardworking, it doesn't matter what you're doing, the business will come if you are hardworking and you put the client first.
Wow. That's a great philosophy. I feel like more people need to think that way, more long-term gain than short-term, because there's plenty of people, like you said, who are willing to say, like, you should do this right now and say anything they need to say to get you to do it. But in reality, like you were saying earlier, if you look on like a 3-year timeline of that's how long it's going to take you, then that will come back around so many times in those 3 years that it's so much more worth it to just have people focus on the long term.
Yeah, and I think we've all been down that road. I mean, we've been in a clothing store and you can tell you're being sold. No one wants that. I had a car salesman say, you look good in this car and you deserve it. I'm like, you don't know me. You don't know me. So how do you know what I deserve and what I look? I just think people can see beyond that crap. So
yeah. Like you could tell he read it in like a blog last night and he was
very, very transparent.
The other thing too is people have to get to know you as a person. If you hide as a person, it's pretty hard to get business because people want to know who you are. You don't have to be them. There's this misconception. I mean, I deal with people who are at stratospheric wealth levels. I mean, I'm hardly those people. But you have to understand them. You have to understand who they are. And I have a great respect. Maybe part of it is I have an incredible respect for self-made people. So people who have built their business, who have built their could be their portfolio in Bay Street, whatever it might be that they've done, and they've done it on their own. I mean, to me, that is, I'm starstruck. Some people are starstruck by actors or artists. I could care less. I mean, to me, it's like, what have you built? That's, to me, is super cool. And knowing their story. And when you ask them questions about their story and you find out more about them, I find that fascinating. And then you're building that relationship.
Oh, I absolutely agree. I mean, we had Scott McCain from the McCain family on last week, and that was, he obviously has a bit of a different story because that was his dad that built it. And, he did a lot to kind of carry the torch there. But I'm 100%. I feel like when we started, 8 years ago, when I was doing student painting, I would see what people did and I'd be like, oh, tell me, how'd you build all this? And it kind of, at the first I would have to, watch my words because it came across as though I was like, why are you rich? What do you do for a living? But it was really just a sheer interest in kind of the mechanics on what makes people tick and how they build something like that and where your mind has to be. And I feel like whether you're in business or real estate or whatever it is you're doing, there's a lot of those same key core values and mindset traits that you have to kind of get you to where you need to go.
And you can tell what's important to people is just asking them, as you said, it's asking questions, but not asking questions like, how did you get rich? So that's not going to be a good question to ask anyone. It's going to be something like, I don't know, it's just so, wow, they've got a yellow Porsche in the driveway. So it's going to be, well, what's the fastest you've taken that car? Have you ever taken that car on a track? Just innocuous, neutral questions. And that person will tell you more, and you will learn so much from them about Porsches that you can't believe. Or you'll say, they have got a boat, and you'll say, just ask a stupid question. Oh, does that boat come from Norway? I mean, you have no idea where the boat. It's innocuous questions where they'll start talking, especially if they're passionate about that. So people are fascinating. I don't know. I find people very, 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 very interesting, and most people are lonely. Once you talk to them and ask them questions, they're going to tell a lot about it. And I was in an interview in second year university with a woman who she worked at Bell at the time, and she went on her own. She was in market research. After I did work with her for a few months, and I realized I do not want to become a market researcher. That was good to get that out of my system. But she said to me this, and it has come true time and time again, because I'm in job interviews every day, right? I mean, I'm looking for business every day. So she said to me, when the person is talking more than you have the job. So she was interviewing me to work at her company. She said, I just realized I haven't really asked you that many questions. I've been doing most of the talking. And then she told me, I realized when I was in recruitment at Bell, it meant I was hiring the person. So if you can engage someone, most people, I don't know, my business is highly emotional. So if people are buying or selling real estate, it's not always wonderful. It could be a divorce, it could be death. All of these things bring up emotions. It brings up hatred in families. It brings up sibling rivalry. All of these things. It brings up the one child, who's the favorite child, who's the neglected child. All of this comes out. And I think it's not just real estate, it's other areas. So frequently you can feel that tension. It could be the same as if you're going to a house for the first time. Like maybe they don't want you there. Maybe dinner was late, they had a crappy day at work, and they don't want you there. So frequently I don't say anything. I don't talk. Most people think, I got to fill that gap with talking. I ask them questions, and it'll calm people down. It's just asking them questions. There's a dog. Obviously, they like dogs. Like, that's it. I love the coloration of your dog. What breed is that? And it just calms. It can calm the most tense environments. And then they're talking about their dog, and then you just happen to talk about real estate or whatever you're in the business of. It's connecting with people. At all the time is connecting with people.
That was actually the first thing I learned when I started student painting, and I would go and I would get taught how to do sales, and I would go and my manager, I would see her just go and absolutely like blow me away, be like, this is crazy, like you're literally, everybody loves you. I don't understand how, without a doubt, consistently every single person. And she said, yeah, well, it's because I'm interested. And I said, well, I understand. Like, how are you interested in their yellow chair? Like, what's interesting about it? And she's like, well, if you want to be interested, you're going to be interested. And then after so many years of doing that now, I 100% I agree with you, because I'll go and I'll be like, oh, that's an interesting flamingo statue.
Yellow chair.
Yeah, there must be a story behind that. And then they'll go on for 20 minutes about their yellow chair. And like you said, I think people are lonely, but I think more than ever, as you go through higher levels of wealth, you become more and more lonely, because, especially with like the ultra wealthy, your time is so valuable and you don't want to waste it. And it starts to become harder and harder to know who is there for you because they genuinely are there for you, and who's just there for you for the benefit. And when you have those connections, they're few and far between.
I'm probably fortunate that I get to go to people's homes. So I'm able to see visually what's important to them. But you can tell, how is someone dressed? I mean, obviously, if they're dressed poorly, clothing's not important to them. That would not be a good starter point. And so it's whatever's important to them. You can see different aspects. And so there's something that, I've done a lot of training and courses and given courses. There's something that is, and think about it. It's called FORD. So family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. If you're ever stuck in asking a question, when we're all stuck, when you're sitting with someone, not everyone's easy to converse with. And so just immediately go. So first, family. So whether they've just, if you know about them, tell me about your kids or your grandkids, or occupation. Well, you're a lawyer. What type of law do you practice? Oh, that must be very competitive. Just to ask about their competition, ask about anything. If you know about if they've got a cottage, their recreation, or they love to travel. Oh, you were in Portugal. What was your favorite part? You don't even have to have ever been to Portugal, but you have to be interested, because if you're not interested. But I think you learn so much about people that it makes you, it makes you a more rounded person as well.
Yeah, something that I've frequently thought is that we're really lucky that we get to still go to people's houses to do our work, because we get to kind of be in their world for an hour and experience it and kind of connect with them on that level, that especially now with like everything that's been going on for the past year with COVID, that I feel like most people do not get anymore. And the loneliness that we've been talking about is only on the rise now that, everybody's kind of shut into their house.
People used to be like, someone's at the door, like, this is annoying. I don't want to talk to you. And now they're like, we gotta go. We're busy. Like,
they're like, no, come on, I'll show you more. Yeah, like, look at my backyard. Look what I got over here.
Well, that's very true. I mean, people, essentially, we're all selling time. So we're selling time with potential clients or prospects, and it can be interesting. I truly believe that's the most interesting part of my job is that. But the other thing I would say is this, and this is probably an irritant with me that may not be an irritant with a lot of people, but I suspect most entrepreneurs, it would irritate them too. I can't stand seeing people sitting. So you go into a retail store and they're on their phone or they're texting or they're like, are you kidding? I'm a customer with a wallet. I obviously in your store. I hate shopping. Some people love shopping. I hate it. Get me in and get me out and get me if I'm getting a pair of pants, get me 4 so I don't have to go back to the store for a year. To me, that's a dream. To see people sit, or a car dealership, people are sitting, or whatever it might be. Go up to the person, connect with them, just discuss in whatever business you're there. And then, so you're an insurance. Well, what other insurance products do you have? And you don't have everything. You don't have all your insurance products with me. Can I just talk to you about your house insurance? You probably have that with RBC and whatever it may be. I mean, if you're a lawyer, are there this connecting different services within the law firm to other lawyers? It's conversations about people and whatever other products they have.
I think it's really amazing. Just connecting the dots. Yeah,
it's amazing to find out. So when I was at the bank in year 2, when I was in private banking, which is banking for the wealthy, I won 5 awards, more than anyone in my district in the second year, and I wasn't even from Toronto. And people are like, "What? How on earth do you do it?" First of all, you work your butt off. Everyone who's doing well is working really hard. And secondly, is you're making notes about every product that they have everywhere, and when that product is up. So if you are in whatever it may be. There's a guy who used to clean my gas barbecue when I was in a house. How clever was he? He would send me an email in March saying, "Hey, Paul, just want to let you know we're starting to open up and we have a discount if you do book earlier." So I had used a florist, the same florist for years. I'd send clients or family members. She never touched base with me once. She never said to me, oh, by the way, it's administrative assistance day coming up in a week. Here are 2 suggestions of what you can get your min. I was so furious with that woman after like 3 years of giving her business. She never once said, how can I help you with something else? Or this is coming up. I used to shop at this one men's clothing store. You can see I'm getting angry with this. I get angry with people saying,
go for it.
I went into the store because I had a client cancellation. I thought, okay, I've got a 2-hour gap. I'm going into the store and see what they have. The suit, he had a suit hanging there. I'm like, oh, it's perfect. Get that in my size. I don't have it in your size. I said, okay, we need to stop this conversation now. I've been coming here for 3 years. Do you think this is the style that I would like? Yes. And you didn't take a photo and text it to me the second it arrived? Are you kidding me? Like, people lose sales opportunities all the time. It makes me furious. People want to do business. They want to do business with people they like. Give them the opportunity and make them feel special. I mean, no one's going to, if you're not making them feel special, they're not going to do business with you. But say, you know what? I know you like this. So what's important to that person? Yeah. And do that, and do things that they're not expecting. Like, and never burn bridges. And if you burn bridges, repair them. In life, you cannot believe the number of times I burn bridges, and I several times it's not my easiest and best gift. I've had to repair them, and it pays off. Is that relationships and having a good reputation is critical. And in my industry, I've had competitors who, if they've lost a listing to someone, they call the seller and get angry with them. Like, why did you list with that firm and not with me? What is it exactly? I'm like, they made a decision. The person made a decision. Why would you say that? They've already made the decision. You're only reinforcing the reason that they made the decision to go with the other person. Be gracious. Just say, you know what? I hope it works out. I wish you all the best. I'm just grateful you gave me the opportunity, and maybe we'll do business down the road. I'd be honored to do business with you in the future. And leave it graciously. Most people get angry. Like, the client made a decision. Support their decision, and you'll get more business down the road.
I think that's operating from like a scarcity mindset. I think that's the classic, like when you feel like there's only a limited number. Yeah, like there's a limited number of clients, or there's a limited number of dollars in the city to go around, and you're trying to grab what you can. But when you operate in the opposite way, and you're just trying to help everyone and make it all work, and you know it's going to come back to you, it just works out that way. So it's
well, you two have a business of window cleaning. If you believe the pie is this big of window cleaning, it's crap. Because I believe the pie grows, and the pie grows with competitors, because also people are saying, wow, those windows look great at that house, and I never knew, I thought I should get window cleaning. You're opening eyes to people who never even thought about that. I think it's the same thing in my business in real estate. People are like, oh my God, there's more real estate agents coming in. Well, there's 65,000 agents in Toronto right now. The pie's big, and it will only grow. As people work, it will only grow.
Well, that's my philosophy is like, I know countless other people that are in a similar industry to us, and they don't want to share practices, or this is a classic. Like, in any business, people don't want to share their ideas because they're worried someone else is going to take it and run with it. And it's like, do you realize, like, if we literally just helped each other, maybe we would take some clients from each other through it. But overall, like, we would all be so much better off. The market would explode. Like, I think we're doing incredibly well, considering we're only in our third year, and we haven't even touched 1% of the market. So, go and take 30% of it if you want, and I think it's not going to impact us in any way.
The critical thing is, in any competitive environment, is not to trash your competitors. I mean, people know your competitors. No one speaks to one person. Maybe they do in your business. They don't in mine. Everyone speaks to three people. Yeah. The critical thing is acknowledge that and say, you know what? I know you're speaking with three people. I know you have that choice. And I'm going to give you the reasons. And I generally say three. And you better know that I'm going to give you three reasons why you're not going to choose that competitor. You're going to choose to work with me. And you give them the three reasons. Usually they laugh because they're not expecting that. Yeah. But you have to have 3 points of difference. And I say to people, I may not be the best fit. So what you have to do is you have to remember that people were 4 years old at some point in time. And someone stole their Tonka truck from them and someone stole little Jane's doll. They still have that in their mind. So take the little Tonka truck and doll away from them. And so I say to them, I may not be the best choice for you. I may not be the real estate agent to work for you. But if you like a high level of communication, you're going to like me. You're going to like doing business with me. If you like someone who's direct, some people don't like that. They want everything, everything's beautiful. But if you want someone who's direct and there to help and find solutions, you're going to enjoy doing business with me. So probably, I think for me, I do business with business people because they like to be treated in a business fashion. And I say, if you like things in writing, who doesn't like things in writing? Because most people are feeling they're getting ripped off. If you like putting things in writing, everything we do is in writing. Everything is in writing. So not only am I going to give that up to you up front, my signature is on it. You can rely on it. My reputation is on that. No, none of your competitors do that. People love it. So if you have anyone who's in IT, an accountant, an engineer, or owns a business, they love those. They love communication and they love things in writing. But sorry, I just wanted to say one thing. I just wrote something down because while we were talking, I had a blow my mind moment about 5 years ago. I used to own an apartment in Fort Lauderdale, and this has never happened in my life. We booked a dinner at a chain, like Americans have big chains, a high-end restaurant, had dinner. At 11 o'clock the following day, my phone went off and it said the restaurant name on it. I thought, the first thing is, what did I forget at the restaurant? And the woman called and she said, hi, it's so-and-so. I forget the restaurant. I know where it is though. And she said, I'm calling from so-and-so. And I just wanted to make sure that everything went perfectly last night at your dinner. I'm like, yes. Wow. And she said, and I know it was a birthday celebration. Was the cake satisfactory? Yeah, it was too big, but it was good. I was so thrown off by her calling. Most people are afraid to call because they're afraid someone's going to say, you know what, the cake sucked.
Yep.
And the service was horrible. They're afraid of that. Call people and say, and acknowledge if there's a problem, never hide. Never. Your competitors are hiding. My competitors hide. They're like ostriches. Their heads go in the sand. Do not hide from the problem. Go up front and say, you know what? I mean, I remember losing I forget what document it was, of a client many years ago. Do you think they were pleased? I mean, I think it was a survey, and it was the value of the survey is around $2,000.
Yeah.
And I said to the seller, I'm calling you because I am calling you to apologize. And my broker told me that it was a very good line. She said, even in the cleanest and best kept houses, things go astray. And I came clean. I said, I have misplaced your survey. I said, I'm going to make it right, but I'm going to keep looking for it first. So whenever something goes, the worst thing is if you've screwed up and your client calls you with a complaint, you're in trouble. Like, that's bad. So in our case, when we do advertising, we're on tight deadlines. And we try to triple check everything. But sometimes it goes, you're busy. And of course, the day it goes wrong is with a very difficult client. And so the wrong price ran in the client's ad. Well, do you think a client's happy? Because if their house is listed with you, they're watching everything you do. So the worst thing is to let it go and say, I pray to God they won't see the ad. Or calling them and saying, you know what, we made an error. You're going to see it on Friday. and your friends will see it as well. And this is what I'm going to do to make up for it, because we screwed up. And here's what I'm going to do. So find out what is the cost of the error, and you're going to fix it. And you've got to fix it, because otherwise you have to make good. Everyone makes mistakes. What are you doing to remedy those errors, and what are you doing to not hide from them? So that has helped our business multifold. Because people, I think, also expect you to run, or they expect you. In my business, I told you it was very emotional. We get some very angry, yelling clients. I suspect in any business, when you're dealing with money, you get angry clients.
Yeah.
The first thing is just to shut up, like just let them vent. And I always have to remind myself, because I'm always like, okay, and I say this to myself 2 and 3 times before. Or if my assistant says, oh, so-and-so called and she was furious, I'm like, okay, you're not going to get a friendly phone call. And I say to myself 3 times, it's not about you, Paul. It's not about you, Paul. It's not about you. And then I make the call. Because the first reaction is, well, it's not that other agent's fault. I mean, how are they supposed to, like, people, the first reaction is like, how do I defend myself? Don't. Just say, yeah. And then I said to a client yesterday, she may be pickier than average. And I said to her, you know what? I think you are more educated than the average consumer. So you're probably more demanding in this area because you're so highly educated and trained. I said, you're not happy with it, but buyers are going to love it. But that's not going to help me with you. What can I do to make you happy? And I have a suggestion, and you let me know if this is okay. So it's about making them, because they're going to remember the experience with you. If you are nasty or gossipy or anything, they will remember that. They're going to remember everything. They're not going to remember everything you did, and they're never going to remember that ad that was screwed up and the price was screwed up. They're going to remember how they felt about you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we just do things differently and do things that people don't expect, and do the smallest things and remember them. And you don't have to remember them. Everyone has a smartphone. Just key it in. I key in. Once someone tells you their favorite coffee, do you not think that's in my smartphone? So I show up at my client's house because I know now she likes the vanilla tall latte. I had a client say to me, I remember, it was around Christmas, I remember my grandmother's shortbread cookies. I don't know why the conversation came up. The following day, my partner made this couple a dozen homemade shortbread cookies.
Wow.
And they were like, holy crap. So it's things like that. Does that cost a lot of money? No. If they have a dog.
Brain space. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm.
Making it personal.
Just brain space. It's just thinking about them, caring.
Yeah.
Where do you store it? In their contact?
Yes.
Things this person likes. I think that's tremendous. Wow. Like for us, like a big thing is, I mean, you said so many great things there, but because we're selling a high-end service, there's a big expectation to live up to. And it's almost like, so like you're not going to make any mistakes. And whenever I feel like we've set the bar almost too high for ourselves, I'll tell the client, I'll say, listen, this is a big job, and mistakes get made all the time. And hopefully it doesn't happen here, but if it does, then it is what it is. So please just judge me based on how I handle them, and not the fact that they happened at all.
Well, that's a really good point, because I want everyone who's listening to know this. Number one is, in 90% of cases, everything's going to go well. In 10% of cases, mistakes are going to happen. It's going to happen. So get ready for it. Whether you get your wallet open and you pay for the error, you're going to make it good. Mistakes will happen. 100% never happen. So be prepared for that. Number two is, we say to clients, and the problem, it's not a problem, it's reality. So the higher you go up in terms of dealing with clientele, so the higher end, I don't mean to say higher end, the more affluent the client, the higher their expectations, because they stay at the best hotels in the world. They eat the best steak. They drink the best wine. They get the best. They've got waiters who, they have a level of service that for them, and you have to remind yourself, it's normal for them, and it meets their expectations. So if you want to play in that field, you've got to provide that level of service. So, and I say to people, you know what? Things go wrong. We will triple check everything, but I'm not saying it's going to be perfect. But we're going to minimize the probability that an error occurs. If there's an error occurring, I want you to promise me one thing. You will not complain to your friends or your colleagues first. You will call me, and you'll let me try to make it right. So if you find an error or you're not happy about something, call me first. Give me the first opportunity to make it right. I will do everything I can to make it right. People like that because you're not going to ever. It's not going to be perfect. So you just want the opportunity to make anything that goes wrong right.
I think that's a big thing. Like for us, obviously the size of our sales are much smaller than a $40 million house. But something that I'm always trying to bear in mind and improve on is, how do I almost like shift the relationship as far away from a commodity as possible? Because it's crazy. Like I hear all the time where someone will tell me, yep, I used this company for 10 years, but last year I wasn't really happy. They came back to fix it, but they did mess up that one thing. So I'll give you a shot. And I'm like, wow, like you're just going to drop them just like that because of
10 years
that they fixed. Yeah.
But it's not just like that. It's 10 years where they've sort of, it's been an okay experience. I bet no one called them the next day or sent them an email. How did everything go? Are you happy with our work? I bet no one did that. So it's about, I bet no one contacted them. No one contacted them in the fall saying, okay, we did your windows in the spring. Would you like them done before winter? I bet no one did that. I think the key is no one contacts. It's all automated. So the contact is automated. Not that that's terrible. I mean, in some cases it's great, but in this, when everything is so automated, it's so impersonal that people will ignore it. The more personal you can make that contact, the better. And then you can charge a premium. I mean, we say to people all the time, you know what? You're speaking to our competitors. We will be the most expensive of everyone you're talking to. The most expensive.
Yep.
So why don't you just put it out there? So and start and say why? Like why are we the most expensive without trashing your competitors? So we just gained a listing of a couple. They put it out to tender. I mean, people don't put out listings to tender. They asked for, in the business world, it's called an RFP, a request for proposal. Yeah. We didn't fight it. So the first thing I did was I called a friend of mine who works in the architectural design world where they do RFPs, requests for proposal, all the time. I'm like, okay, so I know what an RFP is. They're asking us, what is it called when I reply? Like, what's it called? Is it and her response is, in our world, it's called a response to an RFP. So my subject line on the response was response to RFP. So I spoke the person's language, and we didn't fight it. She outlined exactly what she wanted, and then she threw in 2 questions. And I want to tell everyone, don't always answer all the questions because sometimes they ask you trick questions. So 2 of the questions they asked is, number 1 is, what's your average days on market for your listings? And what's your average percentage of sales to list price ratio? Meaning, because in their mind, my competitor is saying to them, I sell on average 101% of your value. So I'm going to get you 1% more than your house. The problem is, say you don't have those metrics, don't respond to them. And our response to her was, unfortunately, those stats can be highly skewed because our competitors can continually have a philosophy of grossly underpricing. So they're going to have metrics that will be super impressive. And they'll say, I'm number one and I'm number one at this, and I'll get you 107%. I said, but that's easy to do. I mean, but I said, first of all, we do not track those metrics. We refuse. And we do not track days on market because that metric can be skewed as well. So because if you're trying to fight for more money for your clients, it's going to take longer. And that's what we do. We're not in any rush. So be careful when clients ask you questions. Sometimes they're not real questions. They want real answers. And because at first I thought, our competitors are obviously giving them that information. And then I thought, no, I'm not even going down there. I don't believe in those metrics. I'm not going. I'm going to respond to the way I feel. Tell it like it is from your heart and your soul and from what you see.
I think that's a big thing in real estate, because I know that everybody, it's all about, how much did I sell over asking? Okay, well, but how low was your ask in order to do that? There's a company called Zappos. I don't know if you know them. So Zappos, they changed the way that their call center representatives measure success. In that, in most call centers, the lower your average call time, the better. Right. And they want to see people getting off the phones. And they said, we want to see the longest possible average call time. And they would just spend 10 minutes on the phone talking to customers about their lives and what they're doing and building relationships. And that drastically changed the results of what they were getting, because people were so bought into the company and the experience that they had with them. Considering that you were, I mean, obviously, like you said it already, you work with a higher set of affluent clients, other than what would normally maybe be expected working in that area of the business with that set of clientele. What would you say? Was there anything that kind of surprised you over the years, or that really kind of took you from left field in working with that segment of the market?
Yeah, I would say that people are people. I mean, most people are very intimidated, and let me tell you, I was too. So, I mean, mean people are mean people. They could be rich mean people and poor mean people. People make this judgment. Well, people at higher income brackets or with more expensive homes are going to be more difficult to deal with. I'm not saying that they're easier to deal with, because they're going to have greater expectations, but people are people. You're going to meet 80% of people are awesome people. It doesn't matter how much they have. Just get to know them. And I get that out of your mind. And then the other thing is that they want to get to know you. You don't have to travel the way they travel. I mean, there's no way you can travel that way. Just get to know them and just ask them about, whatever. If you like wine, do you really have to go to Italy? No. Just say to them, if they say, I tried this Italian wine. Do you like it? And I mean, I had one client make fun of me and say, that's disgusting. Like, why would I ever buy that wine? Fine. Who cares? Sign here. Like, but just have the conversation with them. Just don't be afraid.
That's so funny. So you, so just to jump back into the beginning, like you had a pretty extensive background in academia. And for most people, like I was telling you earlier, I feel like real estate is either it's like moms who retired, they raised their kids, and then they're like, I'm going to get back in, but I want something flexible. So real estate is like their second shot at a career. Or right out of school, you just look around and you're like, yeah, none of this stuff interests me, so I'm going to be a realtor. But you actively were working, like you did your MBA, and then I think you were teaching in Paris to pick up French, and then you took some courses at Harvard, you worked in banking, and then you just woke up one day and decided to jump into real estate. How did that happen?
Well, it started off with, I'm going to give it a try. I bet you every successful person says, I'm going to give it a try.
Yeah.
So you have this product or this. So I was going to give it a try. And let me tell you.
Why? What made you decide to do that?
Probably process of elimination of what I didn't want to do. And I was not terribly happy at the bank. I mean, I did well. I had a great client portfolio. But I didn't go home and love it. I mean, if you have a pit in your stomach about going to work on Monday, chances are you need to get out of that job. And I had that at the bank. And don't mix up being successful in an organization with not loving it. There's lots of people, unfortunately, who get on a treadmill, and I saw it time and time and time at the bank. They've got a mortgage, they've got car payments, they've got kids, they've got this debt, they've got credit card. You're on that treadmill. It's really hard to get off. So in my case, I thought, better get off before I have all these debts and obligations, and I'll give it a try. And the one thing is, if you are in an organization and you've done really well, when you leave the door open and just say, I don't know if this is going to work for me, but I would hope that there'd be a position back in your organization to take me back in the event it doesn't. But I need to try this for myself. And what I did when I left the bank, I said, call me. If there's a client problem a month or two down the road, call me. If you have a question on a client why did you do that? Call me. Just leave that door open, and they did call. So, and I happily provided this is what happened. This is why we structured it that way. So always leave your previous job really positive. And I worked the last 2 weeks till midnight every night, making sure my portfolio was squeaky clean, because the last thing you want is someone taking over whatever your desk is, your portfolio, your client base, and they're saying, they left it like hell. Like, do you want that reputation? So I knew I could always go back. So for me, that was comfort. And then I total fear. So I started in real estate, and I worked. First of all, I was at the bank, so I didn't know what real estate hours were. No one is in a real estate office at 9 a.m. No one. I was at the office at 6:30 in the morning. So, and I'd be wondering, like, why are it's 10 o'clock in the morning? Why aren't these people in the office? It's because our business tends to be a later day business. And I started at 7.
Because that's when clients are home, right? Weekends and nights.
Yeah, but I guess now it's less. When I first started, it was more regimented. But now, certainly with COVID, everyone's home. But and then I worked till 11 o'clock at night. I reached out. Who do I know? Who has a pulse? Who can I reach out to? Just to get the word out that I was in business. And then I started. I mean, it's tough. Calling, getting visibility, networking groups, all of that stuff, all of the ugly grunt work to build the business. I mean, you guys know, you knocked on doors. It's horrible. I knocked on doors. You do cold calls. It's the worst part, but I can tell you, after 3 years, if you've done everything right, you're not going to ever have to do that again. So I did, and then it just kept building, and I was totally fearful. Like, will it end? Is this just an anomaly? Is this? And then year 2, the same question. It's like, oh my gosh, how am I going to recreate what I did last year? And blah blah blah. Yeah, just do it, and don't let anyone. And I remember we were in the office, and one of the ladies who became a friend of mine said to me, well, how many houses do you want to sell this year? And I have no idea why. Like, why didn't I say an even number? I said 42. Why did I say 42? I have no idea. I was 42. So she said, at the end of the year, how many did you sell? I said, you were wrong. I didn't sell the goal I had. I sold 60. So don't listen to people. Just get out there and do it. And people will always ask you, how you do it, or they'll talk badly about you, or who cares? Just keep going, keep moving along. And I remember at the firm I was with they asked me the question, not positively, well, how did you get that listing? Like, meaning, how dare you? I mean, you're stepping on our toes at the, there are a lot of well-to-do people at this real estate firm who were well-connected. I wasn't. So I built, and to me, that was more fun. I just loved it. So
yeah, you get to kind of go against the status quo. Nobody expects you to step up, and you do.
You got moxie, and it's an accomplishment. It was fun. And then getting the next one is like, how did you get that listing on the golf course? It's like, and they're not saying it positively, like, congratulations, you got that listing on the.
They're turning their nose up at it almost.
Yeah. So I just kept plowing away, and then it was ugly. So I'd get the listing on the golf course, and I'd knock on doors, 5 in each direction, 5 across the road, and saying, hey, I listed your neighbor's house. And just people kept my card. They're like, who does this? And I was doing it with a reason. I wasn't just knocking at their door.
Yeah.
I'm like, I've got this coming up. And then we would start by doing strange things. So we do things like, I got a listing when I first moved back to Toronto. I had to start from ground zero. I mean, I was selling real estate in Hamilton for 7 years. So when I moved back to Toronto, I started from ground zero. And one of the persons said to me, well, my sister told me I have to call you, but I'm not going to do business with you. I'm going to choose the number one agent in my neighborhood, who I knew who he was because he worked through my company. And I said to him, this client who became an incredible referral source, I said, I am going to come back to you with a plan where I'm going to give you 6 reasons. You're going to say, holy caramba, I am definitely not choosing to do business with him. I'm choosing to do business with you. And I'm going to come back to you in 3 days with that plan. And he smiled and said, yes. I left the house. I'm like, what the hell am I going to do? So the critical thing in any business is you analyze that competitor. You analyze everything they're doing. And I don't mean disparagingly, what they're doing well, and you do the opposite. So whatever they're doing, if you offer them the same thing, you're a commodity. You're just forcing your price down. But you do things that they can't do, because in every business, so my competitor was very busy. I had no business. I was building. And I gave him 10 things, not 6. I put them in writing. I said, these are 10 things I'm going to do. And I know you're speaking, who's a great agent to so-and-so, but they're too busy. They can't do these things. So I said, if you want someone who's going to earn your business and work for you, and at the end of the day, you're going to say, this guy worked, he kept his promises and he worked for me. He said, I like you. I'm going to sign with you. I couldn't believe it. So it's just doing that. People want to do, they want their business appreciated. And then I was competed with a couple weeks later, got a referral. It was a condo. And the lady, I was with the number one agent in Canada. And I thought, I may as well cancel. Like, why am I going to this listing meeting? I mean, I don't have a chance. And I went into the meeting and gave everything. And I had no knowledge. I mean, this competitor knew everything about the condo market. I mean, I was in Toronto 3 weeks. And I said to the client, I looked at both him and her in the eyes, and always the wife first, because most people ignore who the real decision maker is. And I said, I want to do business with you, and I will earn your business. And I shook their hand. And so then a day later, they said, you have the listing. So not only until after they signed, never ask questions before they signed. After they signed is, okay, you spoke to the number one agent in Canada. How did you come to choose me? And the response was, you said you want to do business with us. And we value that. No one said that. We want your business, and and I'll earn your business. So tell them you want their business, you want to do business, and you'll earn it. People want that. They want people to work hard for them. Does anyone want lazy? You remember that retailer who sits there on their texting on their phone that I talked about? Does anyone want to go, wow, you're the person I really want to do business with because you've got it down? No, they want to do business with people who are interesting, and care about them.
Well, this is a great full circle story, Paul, because that's how we met, right?
That's right.
I don't know if I ever told you like my version of how it happened, but
maybe our viewers want the truth, or you go ahead, you tell your version.
Basically, so I had just moved to Toronto, and And I was like, in Montreal, I was used to running not at the level we are now, but I kind of knew, okay, I've worked with more affluent clients. I know what they want. I know how to offer better service. So I'm going to go to Rosedale. And Rosedale is basically one of the, if not, what is it? You would know better than I am. Where does it rank in terms of like affluent cities, areas in Canada?
It would be in the top in the entire country, yes.
Yeah. So basically, it was, I think, February, and it was like minus 25, and it was a blizzard. Oh, yeah. And I didn't even have business cards yet. Like, people thought I was like casing their house, and we didn't have hats or anything. And I just started knocking on doors. And with knocking on doors, the rule is always when you're about to give up and you go and you decide to do one extra house, that's usually the house that ends up giving you the deal. So I was going on, I think, hour 3 with nothing, which is unheard of for me. Like, usually I'll get like 4 an hour, and an hour 3 and I have nothing. And I see you and a woman walking out of a house, and and it was so funny because it's the dead of winter and all the snow is like cushioning any noise. So it's absolute dead silence and no one's anywhere to be seen. And I just end up walking next to you guys, and we're going side by side, and you guys are kind of looking at me and I'm looking at you, and I'm like, well, I guess I've joined your wolf pack now. So do either of you need window cleaning? And you thought I was crazy, and I said, yeah, I'm crazy. I'm looking for business, and you're actually one of the only people. Usually, when people say take my card and send me an email, don't call me. They just want to kind of shove you aside because they don't want to be bothered. But I emailed you, and you ended up answering, and that was kind of the beginning of this.
Well, I'm going to agree with the crazy part. So when I saw you, and you said to me, you're knocking on doors, looking for your window cleaning business. I thought, who the hell knocks on doors in Rosedale looking for business? So I thought, good for you. I thought, and then I went in my car. I'm like, that takes guts. Like, who does that? Most people are intimidated by that. So yeah, you've got to hit the ground running, and it's about connecting to people. No, that's how we met. That was very funny. Serendipity.
You said and it wasn't even like a quick, like, are you crazy? Okay, take my card. You said, are you serious? And like, I couldn't tell if you were like sheerly just disgusted that I had the gall to go knocking on doors on a Sunday. And I was like, yeah, I'm serious. And you said, it's in one of the richest neighborhoods in Canada on a Sunday, and it's the coldest day of the year. And I remember thinking, it's not that cold. I grew up in Montreal.
This is like a summer day.
And I said, I was like, yeah. And you said, okay, well, all right, I'll talk to you.
Well,
and I came home and I was like, I got one. I got one.
Well, the thing is, too, you're talking about the people who did business with that window cleaning company for 10 years and then something went wrong. I think the part is for any of it is lack of consistency of service. So your competitor has lack of consistency of service.
Yeah.
And I think that's in the bank. If you're in banking, there's so much turnover of people in the banking network. There's lack of consistency of service. And don't you love calling Bell or Rogers or Telly? Isn't that a joy? So, and then of course you get someone you don't know, you've never heard of, and they don't know you. And you got to tell your story over and over again. No one wants to do that. They want that consistency. And that's how that's how we get business from. I mean, we're competing. No one calls, we're going to call you and 3 of the worst companies or worst agents in the city. They're always calling in the top guns. And we say to people, we're offering a different level of service. And if you prefer dealing with teams, large teams, then that may work for you. We don't do that. You're going to deal with the team, but when you have a problem, you're going to call me. You're not going to be like, who do I call? Do I call Johnny? Is it Sam who handles the marketing? I can't remember. Of course, they make fun of it, right? Like, oh my gosh, my sign is down. Was that Tim I call, or is it Debbie? I can't remember which person. I'm like, if you choose to do business with us, you call me. I will handle everything. I will quarterback everything. Everyone wants that. They don't want to call people they don't know, because then they're telling the story again. So, and the other thing I think in most industries, and your industry, I remember what pissed me off so much is I don't love washing. I love a clean car. I don't love washing a car. So the great thing about Toronto, there's lots of great car washes. And I remember, I mean, a car is important to me. I mean, I have to go to clients. I have clients in my car. My car has to be clean. And at the end of the car wash, the door opened and this guy is blowing his cigarette smoke and butts it out. I'm thinking, I'm not going to swear in front of our viewers, but I thought he has no respect for my car or me because he just blew out cigarette smoke going into my car. I was furious. And then the next time I went back, and that was the end of it, is someone was wearing a belt buckle and was leaning, who was not terribly tall, leaning over my trunk and drying it. I'm like, no, I'm not saying the swear word here. Yeah. Like again, so just doing things that these are things that you shouldn't even have to think twice of. Like it should be gracious. Thank you for your business. How do you run a good business? And I think you can crush the competition just by doing that and offering consistency of service and communicating. I mean, we'll go full circle. I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. Amicability, they got to like you. Availability, you've got to be available and you don't hide from problems. And last is ability, which is skill. And once you offer all three in that order, you're going to get the business. That's all I have to say today.
That was fantastic.
Wow. That's amazing. I think that's like the perfect place to end it. Yeah. That's great. That's perfect. Yeah. Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much, Paul. I'm going to be rewatching this one for sure.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure being here. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to everyone. And I hope it inspires people, because I have to tell you, I'm actually seriously choking up, that if I can inspire someone, I mean, everyone's had someone inspirational in their lives. And you can remember somebody. If there's someone later in your career and you think back, holy crap, that person inspired me. I mean, that's amazing. Because I can think of that in my life, in my professional, because you don't meet many inspirational people who are willing to help you. And Dan, you said it earlier, your competitors are afraid of losing business, so they're not going to talk to you about your best practices. If you could inspire someone, it's going to pay off in life. Good night, everyone.
Hey everybody, this is Patrick, just checking in quickly after the episode to say thank you so much for listening or watching. We really appreciate it. We've got some super cool interviews lined up in the near future. We're very excited about them, and we think they're going to bring a lot of value to a lot of people. So make sure that you subscribe on your platform of choice. We are officially available on all major podcasting platforms and on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe there and stay tuned for more. We'll see you next time.